Let's get fired up.
All right. The New York Jets rookies report for camp on Saturday. The rest of the team will join them on Tuesday, the 28th. This is our last show before training camp begins, so let's get fired up.
Rickie, New York is about to go live. We've been through hell, but we still survive. So call it now. I want all the smoke. I'm here to give fans a reason to hope. They continue to build, and soon enough, the Jets will be winning. Now let's get fired up.
All right. Thanks for joining me. Like every other show this month, tonight's episode is dedicated to my beautiful wife, Cheryl. The love of my life, who I cannot live without, my best friend, who's always there for me, even when other people have not been. So this one is for you. Thank you to everybody else for joining me. If you have not already, please subscribe to the channel. We are only 21 subs away from hitting 400, which is our goal by the time preseason begins. So if you have not already, please subscribe to the channel now. You'll always know when we're going live. You will never miss a show. And you know what? While you're here, go ahead and hit that like button as hard as you can. So training camp begins next week. Finally, the pads go on, and we get to see how all the impressive moves over the offseason are going to come together. And I can't wait to see this team in action. I am fired up. I always say, let's get fired up. Well, I am fired up. Going into training camp, I have one major question about this New York Jets team. And you can apply it to both sides of the ball. You can say this about offense. You can say this about defense. My question going into training camp is, where are guys going to line up? Thank you to everybody for joining me. Jay Quest, Lou B, Rick Kent, Bill M, everybody in the chat. Thank you for joining as always. My question is, where are guys going to line up? It's true about D'Angelo Pons. It's true about Omar Cooper. It's true about Kenyon Siddiq. It's true about Minka Fitzpatrick, as well as the rest of our safeties. It's true about the defensive line to either side of Sweat. It's true about every one of our corners. Like, I want to see where guys are going to line up. That's the thing I'm most curious about. How are they going to be used? Now, you'll notice that I said where guys are going to line up to start the year, because as many of the guys, that I named are, for as many guys as I named, there's an equal amount that I want to see get moved around and used in multiple spots. We undeniably have the talent to be an absolute nightmare for opposing coordinators. The question is, will we be? I would like to see all these guys used in multiple spots. And while I don't know if the Jets will be as creative with their personnel as what I've envisioned, because I can get pretty carried away. I do think we'll see a much more consistent team, ones who competitive, one that can actually produce on offense. This rebuild's a complete rebuild, and it's nearing completion. It feels like this is the time, it feels different to me. And I'm going to get into some of the more intriguing position battles to keep an eye on during training camp. I'm going to start on the defensive side of the ball. And you know what? It all starts up front. Tavondre Sweat, who I mentioned earlier. Who's going to be on either side of him? We signed David Amanyata. We've got Harrison Phillips. We've got Jawan Briggs. On the outside, we've got Osai and Enigbari and Will McDonald and David Bailey. It's going to be interesting to see who emerges from that group. Like, who are going to be the starters? I would think, and this is just my personal opinion, I would think that we're going to have Sweat and Amanyata and, depending on down, probably either, Briggs or Phillips. But David Amanyata was top 10 versus the run. That's the other interesting thing. We've got, as far as PFF rankings go, we've got 3 different guys that were ranked in the top against the run. That's good. That is an area where we needed a lot of help. So that's going to be a big addition for us. Amanyata in particular, I'm curious to see how he lines up and, how we're going to end up using him. Speaking of who will emerge, our cornerback group is fascinating to me because we've got Brandon Stevens, who was better down the stretch last year, and his contract makes you think that he'll be one of the starters. However, he did give up the most passing touchdowns in the NFL last year, which is not a good stat. As far as stats go, we signed Nashawn Wright, who led the league in takeaways last year. It's hard for me to imagine, them adding a guy like that and then him not starting. So, I would also lean towards him being a starter. We still have AZ Thomas. He could make it, he could make that very difficult on those guys ahead of him. I do think he's going to take a really big step this year. Behind them, you've got another great battle. Probably one of the biggest ones, between fiery acquisition Jarley, who brought some much needed attitude and physicality after joining the team last year, and the highly touted rookie and Aaron Glenn Clone, D'Angelo Pons, who looks to work his way into the starting lineup sooner rather than later. Pons is a super smart player. Not only is he aggressive and he's physical for his size and all that stuff, but listening to his teammates talk, anytime anybody's asked about him, the first thing they say is how intelligent he is, how smart he is, how high the football IQ is. So I really think that we're going to see Pons sooner rather than later. But corner's not the only position in the secondary where fans are going to be looking for some clarity, because the starting safeties remain to be seen as well. Once again, logic would dictate that, Minkah Fitzpatrick is one of them, but who's going to be our other starting safety? Is it going to be Dane Belton that we got from the Giants? Is it going to be, Malachi Moore, who played a lot of snaps last year as a rookie. Is it going to be Andre Cisco? Can he in some way redeem himself after last year and, make a case for being a starter? It's going to be curious to see. I'm really curious about our safeties. Now, Aaron Glenn and the Jets, that there probably will be a lot of 3 safety looks, in which case I think, we'll probably end up having Belton, being that he's such a sure tackler. Only a 4% missed tackle rate is insane. I think he'd be your, down by the line in the box guy. You'll have Minka a little bit further back where he can kind of take advantage of those short intermediate passes and get the picks for us. And, that leaves either Moore or Cisco, whoever. I don't think so. In the deep, middle for us. So that will be our first true indicator of things to come. Hopefully our first sign of hope. But I have high hopes for our offense as well. Having a real quarterback, a competent quarterback, should make all the difference. I think we're going to see career years from both Garrett and Brees, as well as A.D. Mitchell as a result of that. And I'm really excited to get a look at Frank Reich's, collaborative, Garrett called it player empowering offense, and how they're going to use, frankly, more weapons than the Jets have ever had at one time for as long as I can remember. I don't ever recall there being a Jets team with this many different viable weapons on offense. I can't wait to see how all these guys are deployed. And I think we're gonna learn a lot from that. Just as far as where guys are lined up, how they intend to use them. I think it'll give us a good indicator of what they're going to do moving forward. Now, this next one, even though, this unit remains largely intact from last year, and it should be a strong point, I'm curious to see our new guard, Dylan Parham. After teammates raved about how seamless his transition was, I want to see it. The truth is, there isn't a part of this team that I'm not looking forward to seeing. From the top with Geno Smith and all the weapons, all the way down to Jason Sanders and how he looks in our kicking competition. Training camp is nearly upon us, and the time is here. It's time for winning Jets football to return. And I know that I've only been a fan since 1998. I haven't been through a lot of the hard times that some fans have. But I've been through the most recent ones. And more importantly, I know that these bad times, you don't have to be old to be wise. Okay? Better times are ahead. I know it feels like breaking the law for Jets fans to be happy about anything, but we all deserve to be happy. This team has put us through the grinder. The letdowns came one after another, like rapid fire, always a disappointment. And sometimes it's hard to take. But like I said, this time is different. Don't think about the rage. Don't think about what the season can be. Let's think about what the season can be. Let's think about what this team can be. This is a time for Jets fans to be united. Okay, this is our team, led by one of our own, built top to bottom with guys who embody being a Jet. because they were all selected by a guy who knows what it means to be a Jet. This is a time for real Jets football. So, you know what? Yeah, I, I'm fired up, and I think we should all get fired up.
Let's get fired up!
At any rate, do you guys agree with me? Do you not agree with me? Uh, what battles are you looking most forward to in training camp? Uh, what else are you looking for? The lines are open now. Anybody who wants to call in, give me your opinion. Tell me what you think. Uh, but continuing this conversation, there's also the questions at backup quarterback. Uh, is Zappy Hour going to get put on hold? Are we going to see Club Nick open to the public? We don't know. That's going to be a very curious battle to watch. Um, I am of the belief that they will probably add a veteran quarterback at some point during training camp or the preseason. I don't think we're going to roll in with Zappy and Klubnik as our only backups. As well as, that could be the conversation with linebacker as well. I still think that we're going to add a linebacker. Good question, Mike. So before 1998, I was a fan of the NFL, period. I was just a football fan that didn't really have a team. When I was a little kid, my town didn't have a team. I grew up in Tampa. Eventually, they got the Bucks, and even as a young kid, I just didn't hop right on the bandwagon. I kind of wanted to see. Well, over 2 seasons without a single win in the beginning of that franchise, I was like, yeah, I'm good. So, I liked all kinds of different players from all kinds of different teams. I was just a fan of the sport. I liked, everybody from, Franco Harris to Kellen Winslow Sr., Dan Fouts, Tony Dorsett. Like there was just guys from all different teams. I was a running back, when I was a kid and when I was in high school. So I always tend to like the running backs, be it Peyton, Barry Sanders, etc. But I didn't really ever have a team to call my own. And as I was, kind of at that time still a new husband and a new father and everything, I was kind of trying to see who I wanted to be in life, and at that time, there was a player that caught my eye. And it wasn't just his ability on the football field, but when I heard him speak, I was like, man, you know what? This guy's different. How can he be so genuine and so humble, but yet, on the football field, he's such a badass. And that player was Curtis Martin. At the time was a Patriot. Was not about to root for the Patriots. But then Curtis Martin is, getting traded to New York or going to New York, not traded, but going to New York. And I'm like, you know what? I always liked Purcell's. He's in New York now. Like Curtis Martin, he's in New York. You know what? I want to be a Jets fan. And so when Curtis Martin became a Jets fan, I became a Jets fan. The rest is, as they say, history. But when I picked the Jets as a team, it had less to do with football and more to do with character. Curtis Martin being the shining example of that. But, we also had Wayne Corbett. We had Chad Pennington. Like, you can't listen to Chad Pennington and not want to root for him. He's just a good guy, and we had all, really good quality character guys like that. And so it was, for me, it was more about like living like a Jet than playing like a Jet, if that makes sense. Um, it was all about character and who I wanted to be and how I wanted people to see me. So that's how I became a Jets fan. Um, my favorite Martin, like, yeah, if it wasn't for Curtis, I probably wouldn't be sitting here. But and was fortunate enough to get to meet him, which was probably one of the highlights of my entire life. Um, but uh, that being said, that's how I became a Jets fan. And I'll tell you what, my first year as a Jets fan, we went to the AFC Championship game. And then in 2000, Woody bought the team, and playoffs 6 times out of the first 10 years. If you include the 98 season in that, that would be 7 times in the playoffs in 12 years. That's more than half. And I admit it, I was terribly naive about the Jets history when I became a Jets fan. I thought that's what Jets fandom was. I thought, okay, yeah, we're a kick-ass team. We're in the playoffs damn near every year. We're in the playoffs more than we're out of them. And I thought that was it. I thought that was the deal, man. I thought that's what being a Jets fan was like and what it would always be like. In the time since then, I have figured out that there were a lot of hard times for this fan base before I became a fan. It's been all, with the exclusion of maybe, 2015, it's been bad times for us since 2010. That last AFC Championship game with Rex. It's crazy to me that this playoff drought and all that has gone on for as long as it has. There were some missteps by Woody. There were some bad coaching hires. Adam Gase should have never been hired. John Idzik never should have been hired. We definitely had some misfires. However, I think we've corrected those. I think we're headed in the right direction now. Hello to Valerie, Sharon, Hep, good to see you. The big fella, good to see you. Rick Kent, always good to see you. Everybody in the chat, thank you for joining me. Yeah, man, like it's high time for us to be back in the playoffs again. It's time for us to be back in the conversation again. And I don't think we're going to the playoffs this year. However, you know what? If it gets to be late November, early December, and that graphic comes up on the TV that says in the hunt, and we're in the hunt, I'll be perfectly happy with that. That's all I want. I just want to be competitive. I want to be in that conversation when the time comes. And I think we can be, we've definitely made the additions. I think we've patched a lot of our holes. I think we've improved in areas, that needed it. Listen, man, that's probably one of the worst memories of mine as a Jets fan when Vinny got injured that year. There's obviously there's the Aaron Rodgers injury, but the Vinny injury to me was more devastating because that was a Super Bowl caliber team. And that was probably one of our big shots, and it got derailed. The Vinny injury, the Doug Bryan missed kick. There's a couple of things that really stand out to me. uh, when I think back, and those are two of the biggest ones that I apologize. I was reading a comment. Um, let's hope not. Let let's hope not. Uh, you know, Sadiq, I think is going to be really interesting for us. I think that he's a rookie. It's going to take him a while to get rolling. He's not going to go out there and just light the league on fire from day one. Tight ends usually take a little bit of time to develop. We do have Mason Taylor ahead of him. I do think there will be packages for him. I think they'll figure out ways to get him on the field, but I don't expect him, to like just be one of the top weapons from day one. AD Mitchell, different story. I've been very vocal about my support for AD Mitchell. Um, Looking forward to him, dude. I'm looking forward to all of it. I love our personnel, and it's got some of the Rickie New York music put over the top of it. But there was a play that I love. This play, okay. This is one of my favorite plays I've seen in a while. It is from a college game, but with the personnel we have, and it's not it's gonna. I'm gonna play the clip for you guys. It looks like a reverse, but it is not a reverse. It is a reverse flea flicker. And what I love about this play is as you watch it develop, the defense is really aggressive, and the way that all the motion sucks this defense in, it is beautiful. And I think about with the Jets, with our personnel, we could use this against an aggressive defense. Right off the top, Robert Saleh's defense comes to mind. The New England Patriots defense also comes to mind. But Brees Hall being such a threat, if he bounces it outside, we all know what he can do. AD Mitchell with his speed, I don't think I have to tell any of you what Garrett Wilson can do if he gets downfield deep. But at any rate, I'm going to run this play for you. And just imagine, if you will, our personnel. Gino giving it to Brees, who gives it to Mitchell, who gives it back to Gino, who launches it down the field to Garrett. Dude, I want to see the Jets run this play. Okay? Right here is a letter to Seth Ryan, where I verbalized to him the desire I have to see them run this play. So
Rickie, New York is about to go live. We've been through hell, but we still serve.
and yes, that was former Jets quarterback, kind of, Jordan Travis, former Jets injured reserve player, Jordan Travis. I'm going to play it one more time, dude. I love this play.
Rickie, New York is about to go live.
And by the way, the guy that caught that touchdown, Pokey Wilson, New York Jets tryout player, I guess would be the appropriate way to say that. We brought him in, worked him out, didn't work out. But needless to say, I would love to see the Jets run that play. I'm just looking forward to the year, in general. And again, AD Mitchell, I'll tell you what. I think AD Mitchell is not only going to be our clear-cut number two. When we're in 11 personnel, he's going to be out there. Even when we're in 12 personnel, I think he's going to be out there. I think he's going to be. That's it's true. It would depend how they lined up. I mean, obviously, you have to be in the right situation to try to pull something like that off. You can't just put it in at any time. But um, I just looking at plays like that, like, dude, I wouldn't have thought like the Philly special would work. And hell, we watched Zach Wilson and Braxton Berrios pull that off. So I don't rule anything out. Obviously, it would have to be the right situation and everything, but that was just such a cool play, and yeah, I've been wanting to show that for a while. But um, at any rate, uh, back to AD Mitchell, he's going to be out there the majority of the snaps. I think he's going to take a huge leap this year that eliminates us having to worry about looking for a wide receiver too. We've been saying for the last couple of years we need a good, competent option opposite Garrett Wilson, and now we have one. I think we actually have a legitimate one, and I said it before. He ain't going to be Jamar Chase, but you know what? He could be T. Higgins, you know, uh, and maybe that's even a little bit much. T. Higgins is really good, but he could be like our version of T. Higgins, and I think he's going to have a huge year, man. I really do. I was real high on him coming out of college, um, so I'm looking forward to seeing how this offense looks with him in it. Uh, and again, we got AD on the offensive side of the ball. On the defensive side of the ball, we have AZ Thomas. Is he going to take a step? Is he going to be a starter? I don't know that AZ Thomas is going to start from the beginning of the year, but I do think that before the year is over, Azaria Thomas will be one of our starting corners. Uh, I actually think that at some point during the year, either he takes Brandon Stevens' job or Brandon Stevens ends up getting banged up and he has to play because of injury. Either way, I think once he gets on the field, I think he ends up taking that job, and I don't think he gives it back. Uh, yeah, I think he takes that job and he keeps it. So I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, we got AZ, we've got AD leading the team, we've got AG. It's the A team, you know. Everybody's got the A names. And here's a question from Eli Betts. Um, Garrett Wilson is undersized. Do you think we could see AD Mitchell get more snaps than Garrett Wilson, or is that a ridiculous question? It's a little. I'm not going to say it's a ridiculous question. It's a curious question, but uh, I don't know that Garrett's size has really ever affected him. Look, 3,000-yard seasons in a row. Was on pace for another one before he got hurt. Um, he's been able to produce regardless of who the quarterback is. So that's a testament to him. Um, no, to make a long answer short, no, I do not think that AD Mitchell will get more snaps than Garrett Wilson. Um, I'll say that I think he gets an equal to, or at least close to equal to, amount of snaps as Garrett Wilson. And who knows? Maybe that's a crazy take. or people will think it will. Um, but he's going to be our clear cut number two. I think he probably plays close to as many snaps as Garrett does. And I think he's going to be on the field all the time. I think he's going to produce for us. And, whether you think that's a crazy take or not, that's my take. AD is my guy, and I think we're going to see great things from him this year. And I think he's going to give Jets fans a reason to be happy.
Now that is a hot take. Damn.
Yeah, it's been a while since I played that one. And thank you for the question. And it is always good to see you, Eli. It's always good to see you. And you know what? I've got like a short little clip here, and Eli, you just happen to be in it. So good timing on that. This is just like a little short clip of stuff from the show. Music is my band, but Eli, you just happen to be in this one. So perfect timing for you to drop in just now. Nice segue. Perfect timing with that. But yeah, man, there are so many different intriguing things about this team, that I'm looking forward to this season. Having a competent quarterback, having a good, solid number two wide receiver that we can rely on. Having a competent offensive line, having a defensive line that can not just stop the run, but possibly be dominant against the run. Just so many different things that I'm looking forward to with this season. And you know what? You can call me a homer or whatever. Think that I'm delusional. Man, I'm telling you, like this whole thing, it feels different. It feels like it was done the right way. And going back to my topic for tonight, the thing I'm most curious about with training camp is where are guys going to line up? I that's the thing I'm dying to see, man. I want to see who's starting on that defensive line. I want to see who our starting corners are. I want to see who our starting safeties are. I want to see, is Omar Cooper out there in the slot right at the beginning because he's a rookie? Is it going to be Isaiah Williams, who, was working with a track guy to help improve his speed, which that's scary because the kid's already really fast. But Isaiah Williams was having a real good mini camp, and people were talking about him. So, could we see him out there? Like, I want to see where guys are lined up. Once I see that, I'll have a better idea, how they're approaching things. I'll have a better idea, what is it going to look like on Sundays. But, and I'm really curious to see who wins some of these battles. Aaron Glenn always preaches competition. There's going to be competition at a lot of spots. And I can't wait to see who wins some of those battles. As I said earlier, the biggest one that I'm looking forward to is going to be, that nickel corner, that slot corner. Who is that going to be? Uh, Dude, last year when we traded for Jarvis Brownlee, Brownlee came in. He was physical. He had attitude. It kind of gave this team a little bit of a boost when we needed it. And I love the playing style. I love the mentality of the player. That was one of the additions that we made that I really, really liked. At the same time, you could say all those same things about D'Angelo Pons. He's got that fiery attitude. He plays physical for his size. And, I mentioned it earlier. Every player that I listen to talk that's asked about him, the first thing they say is how smart he is. He's so intelligent. Football IQ is off the charts. That's all good news for the Jets. And I think that if there's a battle that's going to come right down to the wire, that's going to be a close one, that's going to be it. I think those two are going to slug it out. But in the end, I do think that Pons will end up winning that job. Yeah, and that's it, and this is true too, Kel. There's going to be some guys that look good that we end up not keeping. And the same with other teams too. That's why I keep saying, that I think we'll add a linebacker. I think we'll still add a backup quarterback. There are going to be good players that are going to not make other teams. When it comes time for cut downs, there are going to be some good players that get let go by other teams. So, and you know what? Brownlee was the beginning of the Mooch magic. Moochie has been awesome with the additions that he's brought in, from Brownlee to Briggs to Sweat, which I'll tell you something else. That Tavondre Sweat trade may go down as being one of the better trades and one of the bigger steals in recent years. I know that, Tennessee fans complained about him. There were some consistency questions, whatever. But, dude, just like going back and watching his film and watching the tape of him, you definitely see moments. Like, you see flashes where he looks elite. And you're like, damn, you know what? If we could get that out of him on every snap, we would really have something here. Listening to the comments that Jeffrey Simmons made about him right after we acquired him, like he wasn't happy they let that guy go. And he said, I think he can be one of, if not the best defensive tackle in the league. And those are high praises coming from a guy like that. Because I'll tell you what, something else, when I watched that tape, the Tennessee tape, let me tell you what, Jeffrey Simmons was everywhere. I know our offensive line is good. Had all 5 starters healthy all year last year. With the exception of Parham, the whole unit is returning. And I do think that'll be a strong point, but man, they're going to have their hands full week 1 because Jeffrey Simmons is a hell of a player. That being said, we have a hell of a player too, because Tavondre Sweat, dude, that guy's a mountain. And I think when teams try to run on us this year, they're going to be running into a brick wall. I don't think they're going anywhere. All that shit of, it's the Jets, and we get to the fourth quarter and they're just gashing us, running it between the tackles every play because we can't stop them. No, that shit is all over with. And I'm tired of seeing that, man. Like, there's a couple of things, okay? And I'm glad that I brought this up because there's a couple of things that are true. And we've had, I don't have to remind anybody, we've had this playoff drought that's been going on for far too long. But during that playoff drought, there have been two things that have been true. The New York Jets cannot stop the run. That has been a problem that has plagued us for a long time, uh, and should have been corrected long before now. The other thing is, okay, we got Garrett Wilson. We have Omar Cooper now that we just drafted. However, and I'll leave Omar Cooper out of this because he hasn't even played a snap in the NFL yet. Not even a preseason snap. But prior to Garrett Wilson, if you look back at the New York Jets draft history, anybody want to guess when the last time we took a first round wide receiver was before Garrett Wilson? How long it's been? I'll give you a hint. It has been the entire playoff drought. The last time the Jets drafted a wide receiver in the first round before Garrett Wilson was Keyshawn Johnson. We have to go all the way back to Keyshawn to find a first round wide receiver. That's ridiculous. We shouldn't have had to wait over a decade for our team to draft a receiver in the first round. And I think that's been part of our problem. Granted, we've had, if you look at our coaches, Herm Edwards, defensive coach, Todd Bowles, defensive coach, Adam Gase doesn't count, Robert Saleh, defensive coach, Aaron Glenn, defensive coach. I mean, we haven't really had an offensive-minded coach. So, I mean, I know that factors into it. However, that's no excuse. Going that many years without drafting a first round wide receiver is nuts to me. But we did draft one this year. Now we've got Garrett. We've got Omar Cooper. So we actually have drafted wide receivers, in the first round twice in the last 5 years, if you want to look at it that way. So hopefully that will correct that. As I mentioned before, all the defensive linemen that we have brought in. ISU, good to see you, man. Also, Kel, big fella, Sharon, everybody, Tony. If I haven't mentioned everybody by name, I apologize. Yeti, Peg and Artie. Always good to see everybody. And what I hope is that this year, the Jets can give each and every one of us something to be happy about, something to be proud of, something to look forward to watching on Sundays. And I don't mean looking forward to as in, the results of this game is going to get us a better draft pick. I mean, we're going to go out there and win fucking games. This team is going to be a lot better than people think. And let me see what this guy thinks. Kevin, what's up, dude?
Rickie, what's going on, buddy?
Just chilling, doing my thing, getting ready for some Jets football. I mean, day after tomorrow, the rookies report. And then next week, the rest of the team. It's almost time, man. It's almost time to put those pads on.
I am super excited, man. And I know that, there's been a big portion of us who are considering week one to be a must win and I'm just like you and Jake, and I'm amongst you guys. But I kind of want to discuss this. If the team is going to be any good this year, which I think that there is a chance that they are, Week 1 is a game that is really going to determine that in my mind, because on paper, this is a first-year head coach with a new team. Cam Ward, he had moments where he looked good, but we're still kind of not 100% sold on what he can do. And with all these other moving pieces that Tennessee has with the new players that they brought in, if we're going to be a serious team, Week 1 has to be a game that we need to win.
Yeah, I completely agree. Like, looking at our schedule, I mean, and I'm guilty of this. I'm sure everybody is. Like, you look at the schedule and you go, oh, that's a win, that's a win, that's a loss. But you know what? If I've learned anything over the years, it's that the Jets typically, they'll end up losing the game they're supposed to win, but then they'll end up beating somebody that they've got no business beating. Like during this good example, during the Zach Wilson era, we go and we play Jacksonville, who wasn't even that good, and we get slapped. And we got to watch Jake having a meltdown in the rain in the car, freaking out after the. But then we play the Texans, who's like one of the better teams in football, and we smashed them. So you just never know, and I think that's true, and will probably be true this year. I think there's going to be some games, whether it's Detroit in Week 3 or Denver later in the year. So there's going to be some games that people don't think we're going to win that we are going to. The Green Bay game could very well be one of those games. Dude, no Micah Parsons. They weren't good without him last year. You got the weird Josh Jacobs situation. Is he going to even be there or not? But on top of that, they lost their biggest chain mover in Romeo Doubs. They lost Quay Walker at linebacker. They lost Rashawn Gary, who was a very good defensive lineman also. And they added, nobody. So, like that's a team that I could see them stumbling early and digging themselves into a hole they can't get out of. And, hey, if that's the case, it's good news for the Jets anyway, because we'll get their draft pick.
For sure. We see this every year where there's a team that is going into the season that we think is going to be really good, and they end up crapping out. And then we always see that there's a team every year. There's always a team that goes from worst to first. So I think this early, before we even play any games to do the win-loss game, I think it's kind of premature in that aspect. Yes, it is Mercedes Moné.
Yeah, nice eye, Rick.
Yeah.
Awesome, dude. Jets fans are the best. Everybody out there, if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. Whether you're watching here on X, earlier today, I had a bunch of people from X that came over and subscribed to the channel. We gained another dozen subscribers. We're now only 21 away from hitting 400. So if you have not already, please subscribe to the channel. What is your biggest, let's say, training camp battle that you want to keep an eye on? What position are you looking most forward to seeing the competition at?
Dude, the two guys that I'm looking forward the most to seeing in training camp, and I know that you're a big fan of one of these guys, is I really want to see what Cooper and A.D. Mitchell look like. A.D. Mitchell, this is going to be us being able to see a full season of him with the Jets and actually having a competent quarterback in Geno Smith, which I don't think people are emphasizing enough. I know Geno's not Montana, but compared to Justin Fields, he might as well be, right? And then with Cooper, I mean, to get a guy who there was a lot of people who were clamoring for us to pick at 16, for us to be able to swoop in and get him at the end of the first round. That's a guy who I'm really looking forward to see, because outside of the little bit of spurt in the beginning of the Elijah Moore, Garrett Wilson era, we haven't seen, and a little bit of Devontae Adams, but I don't really count that. We haven't seen a consistent number 2 running mate to Garrett Wilson since he's been here.
No, we really haven't. I mean, you could say Corey Davis, but he was inconsistent and banged up a lot. Elijah Moore ended up not panning out. So, yeah, we really haven't seen that consistent number 2. And that's the thing is if Garrett can be as good as he's been when it's only him out there and he's like our only weapon and we've got crap quarterbacks, I can't wait to see what he looks like with an actual decent quarterback and, also having a good number 2 to draw people away from him. So, yeah, I completely agree with that.
But the position, and I know that we keep hearing that eventually we're going to address it. But as of this moment, it still hasn't been addressed, and it's worrying me. And that's the kicker. Because we all know, especially during Aaron Rodgers' year where he actually played, we lost about 2 games off the rip because we had no kicker. So having a really good kicker, and we see it in Dallas where they have Brandon Aubrey, who's consistently money. Having a really good kicker is the difference between winning possibly 6 games and winning 8 or 9. So I'd really like it if one of these days, sooner rather than later, we can get that fixed. Is he talking about the? I hope he's talking about the. I'm talking about what you're on. First off, and this isn't a mistake. This is a little mistake on your part. My name starts with a Z, not an S, but definitely Crow Sting. If you guys don't know, and I hope you don't mind me plugging, Rickie.
No, go ahead.
I do have a pro wrestling channel that I update on pretty much on a daily basis. Covers WWE, AEW, all the things in between. We go lives for the AEW pay-per-views and the WWE PLEs. This weekend, Sunday night, Kevin, I ask you not to hang up Peg's picture. Would not disrespect you in that way, Artie. But Sunday night, I'm going live following AEW Redemption, and next weekend, WWE SummerSlam, Saturday and Sunday night.
Awesome, man. No, absolutely. I was actually going to ask you about your channel, but you beat me to it. So, no, awesome. Feel free to plug that for sure. And Clancy, that's good because our fantasy league will be kicking ass and going strong again. And I may end up having one spot open up this year. So if I do, I will let everybody know in case more people from the community want to join us. But we've had several people from the community that have been in the league the last couple of years. Clancy joined us last year. Johnny Boy is in the league. We got a couple of people from the community in the league, and it's awesome. I've been doing this for it's over 30 years. Like this fantasy league is literally older than my daughter, and she's going on 33. So, when I first, this was the first fantasy league I ever joined, and it's an IDP league. So we have individual defensive players, two defensive linemen, 2 linebackers, 2 DBs. And I always tell people, if you're going to draft DBs, draft safeties because you get points for tackles. Corners, even good ones, aren't going to get you the points. But dude, like when I first joined, like I thought every fantasy league was like that. Like the first time I joined one online and it was like a whole defense, I'm like, what is this bullshit? Like I literally didn't know. And so I've always played IDP. I love being able to draft defensive players. I love that whole part of it. And I'm not gonna get myself in trouble like when I was young, I would be like, oh, that whole defense, that's for like little kids and girls and stuff like that. But you know what? There's girls that I know, and we actually had a girl that joined our fantasy league. The first year in the league, she ended up winning the championship, and but then she was like one and done. She bowed out after that. But dude, there's girls, that know far more football knowledge than some guys. I won't say kids, because you know what, that could be Connor Long, and he could come in and smoke all of us. So I won't make any sort of comments that can be construed as disrespectful. But yeah, the whole defense thing, I think is just weak. I think it's for lazy people or people that don't know both sides of the ball. I love defensive players. I'm looking forward to another really good, really competitive year. And dude, that's the other thing too. Like everybody in our league, like they all know ball. And the thing that makes it rough is like when there's like a free agent you want, because you better get them quick, because with these guys, like, I mean, sometimes it's like in-game additions. Like you'll see a guy, you go, oh shit, that running back just got hurt. Who's his backup? And you go to look and they're gone already, because like our guys are friggin' on top of it. So
I've actually never played, and I didn't even know that was a thing, like an IDP league. I've only played fantasy the last 3 years, so I didn't know that was a thing. I played in a league once where there was no trades, which I thought was freaking bogus, but I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah, and you know what's weird is I'm in another league with a buddy of mine. It's his league, not mine. Where he like tabbed certain players as untradeable, and he complained one time about, I can't remember the player it was, but I'm like, dude, what do you mean like the best players don't get traded in the NFL? We've seen, Christian McCaffrey go from one team to another, Stephon Diggs, guys absolutely get traded. If they're traded in real life, I don't see why they shouldn't be. But it was just like guys that, in his mind are like the highest scorers. And this guy never makes trades. Like I've offered him trades before. He just won't do it. He doesn't believe in it. To me, that's fun, man. Like I remember one time he threw a fit. He threatened to quit the league, made so much stink. He actually got 2 other guys to quit that followed his lead, but then he didn't. And they just quit because of it. But he threw this big fit, and God, I can't remember who I traded away, but I ended up getting Jimmy Graham back in that trade as a tight end. And he threw a fit. Oh, you've already got a really good team. Now you're going to get Jimmy Graham, and that's bullshit. That guy shouldn't. And he threw a fit over it. And I was like, dude, I traded a good receiver and a really good defensive player. If you add up their points, the points are equal, even though it was a 2-for-1 trade. What I didn't realize at the time was Jimmy Graham was banged up. I traded for him. He did absolutely jack shit for the one game that he actually played, re-injured himself, and was out the rest of the year. And that trade screwed me. It didn't do anything for me, but this guy raised so much hell about it. And I almost told him, like, dude, if you don't like a league where there's trades, go friggin' join some other one, man. Like I don't need you being constantly complaining year after year. You don't like the way this scores. You don't like it. You know what? Then go start your own. And you can do that in your league. And mine, this is the way it goes. And he hates it that I have running backs scoring higher than everybody else. And I'm like, why? Quarterbacks can throw multiple touchdowns a game. Receivers can catch more than one a game. A running back's lucky to get one. Running backs earn every yard they get. The running back, I've said this before, is the unsung hero of all sports. Dude, they get hit every play. Doesn't matter if they're getting the ball or if they're blocking. They're getting hit. They get hit there's no clean pockets. There's no running a route and you're untouched. Like if you're a running back, you're getting hit every single fucking play. Every yard you gain, you're earning it. And so, yeah, man, like I think those guys should score higher. And so it is what it is. Again, I'm biased. I'm partial to running backs, but dude, so while I got you here real quick, any final thoughts, about this roster? And like I said, to me, the Pons Brownlee matchup is going to be probably one of the more exciting ones in camp to see. But the corners in general, I'm kind of like chomping at the bit to find out who those starters are going to be.
Yeah, that's the last thing I kind of want to touch on was the secondary. I think due to salary and due to the fact that kind of later in the year he turned it on a little bit. Brandon Stevens is obviously going to come into this season as the number one guy. But I really feel like your boy, man, from Florida State, I think Pons has a chance that by the end of the year, I think that it's going to be a conversation that he could be CB1. I just like the guy. I'm always partial to like those junkyard dog type of guys, and we all know we've seen it with guys like Darren Sproles, different position, but same mentality where it's a guy who is short of stature, but like plays like he's like 6'3". And I think that Pons, especially coming, with the winning pedigree that he has and all of that thing, and having with Glenn, who we even saw Cooper admit that he says, that guy reminds me like myself. I think he's the perfect guy to mentor him. I know that Glenn might not be the perfect head coach in different areas, but I think in this situation, he is the perfect guy for this job, at least. I think we froze. Or maybe I froze. Did I freeze? Maybe I froze. If that's the case, that's all I really had, guys.
Okay, I apologize to everybody for that. I don't know what happened just then. I lost Kevin, but at any rate, thank you to everybody for tuning in. Apologies again for that interruption. Not sure exactly what happened there. All of a sudden, everything just crashed and StreamYard wasn't reloading for me. But once again, appreciate everybody for tuning in. Thank you so much for joining me. If you have not already, please subscribe to the channel.
Subscribe now to Rickie New York Live, the Jets show that rocks.
That's right. Subscribe now to Rickie New York Live, the Jets show that rocks. I will be back on Tuesday. I will keep you guys posted and let you know. There may actually be a Saturday show this week. Since I no longer have that rotating schedule with work anymore, I'm going to try to start making the show, Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday every week, not every other week. So that way I can have a consistent schedule for you guys to be able to find me and join me and make it easier on everybody. But once again, thank you to everybody for joining me. Appreciate all of you. Looking forward to a great year this year. Looking forward to having something we can all cheer about and actually score some points and win some games. But until I see you guys again, thank you. Everybody have a great weekend and go Jets.
Thank you. Good night. We love you all.